Hello my friends, let's talk NieR. Last time we talked about NieR's theme of how language begets power, and ended on the question of what is power, and what does NieR assert that power is. I believe NieR asserts that power is control, but not in the way we normally think about control. However, to start looking at this theme, I think I need to start by looking at its more traditional example. And for that, I'll look at the city of Phasad. The city of too many laws that prompted our discussion last time of how laws that bind action can actually ensure a person's freedom. But the operative word was can, and that doesn't mean all laws will. Phasad had laws that dictated where shops had to be located in an absolutely irrational setup. Laws that required people to live at an altitude that reflects their social class, and other more or less offensive laws that range from inconvenient to outright discrimination. The town guard, too, is restricted from doing their job when the king goes missing because of two conflicting laws that say the guards must immediately search everywhere when the king goes missing, but only the king is allowed to go into the palace. The inability to do both of those things should be immediately apparent. So Phasad has an interesting take on legalism, which is the idea that laws are inherently the source of goodness and morality, and denies that idea as well. But normally legalism is criticized for giving the lawgivers, the king, the presidents, the senates, whatever you have, the ability to dominate the people of a society without themselves being bound to those laws. In Phasad, the king is not the lawgiver, but is as bound to the laws as everyone else, and the laws seem to be created democratically. They just don't have any way to remove a law once it's been made. So, to tie this back to power, the control and dominance of power controls the king, the person who wields that power, as much as anyone else. The most prominent show of power in NieR, however, is magic and the sealed verses. Our character wields massive powers to beat up bad guys, and gets even more power for each bad guy he beats up. But, in spite of all these powers, they don't seem to help our character accomplish any of his goals. Grimoire Weiss's magic is good for defeating big monsters, but not good for finding a cure for his daughter's illness, not good for protecting his friends and daughter from the Shadow Lord. When he tries to save the Aerie from being attacked by the Shades, he and Emil end up annihilating the whole village instead. And yet none of this seems to stop this guy from trying to solve every problem with a giant blood fist of justice. Our character has the sense that he's gone too far. He has no choice and no other options than to pulverize his enemies, and he expresses this most significantly during two moments. The first is when he comforts Emil after turning the Aerie into dust with a magical nuclear bomb. He lost control while trying to use his power against some giant eyeball with scales. Emil is sobbing for killing all those innocents, and our character's only way to console him is to say, "Just don't look back." Second is when we finally confront the Shadow Lord, and our main character is finally confronted with the reality that the Shadow Lord, the character from the intro tutorial, is doing exactly what we are, trying to use his power, gained from Grimoire Noir, to save the life of his daughter, by putting her shade into the body of the replicant that's supposed to be her match. I hope you took notes on that part as well, because that's also going to be important in a later video. Long story short, our character decides on the spot that he's not going to sympathize with the Shadow Lord. Just like he told Emil, he wouldn't look back. He had only one option, and that was to use his power to smash his way forward to get what he wanted. And guess what? It didn't work. The only reason he gets his daughter back is because the Shadow Lord's Yona decided to empathize with our NieR. She decides to give up her control. I think I've almost made my point, but real quick, I want to add a personal experience that I had with NieR. This was the first time I was ever profoundly affected by NieR, and by a mechanic as metaphor. See, my first experience of NieR was NieR Replicant, which I got from a video store bargain bin in Soshigaya, Japan. I couldn't read Japanese, still can't, but I can hear it alright. So my last year of university, I spent an arduous amount of time playing this game, only getting a fraction of it, but still fascinated. During the second boss fight in the area, there is a section where shades are possessing the villagers who were finally starting to open up to outsiders thanks to our good old boys. There is a ton of confusion as to who are the normal villagers versus the shades, who were the real guards versus imposters, and while fighting in the marketplace, you can actually hit and kill the guards. I originally didn't know these were also shades, but you technically can get past this stage without attacking the guards at all. In thinking I was accidentally murdering innocent guards while aiming for the shades, I played this portion dozens of times, trying not to kill a single guard. But I couldn't. The weapon attacks, the magic, all were just too large and powerful to both attack the shades and protect the guards. It was this moment that made me first look at NieR as a narrative about power, and what it meant for me to be controlling, or perhaps being controlled by, all the power that my character was wielding. And as a side note, since I have no place for an elegant transition for this little tidbit, the name of the shade that possesses Kaine, becomes a black scroll and gives Kaine her power, is called Tyrann, which is German for tyrant, meaning a terrible and oppressive monarch. So Kaine's source of power is also a source that is controlling or manipulating her. This theme in NieR is essentially a denial of Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy on the will to power. The will to power is the idea that every aspect of human psychology is, from an underlying need, to control what is around you. It comes in two forms: Kraft, which is pure force, physical strength that can be used by anything that possesses it, and Macht, which is the conscious channeling of Kraft into the creation of social structure. Nietzsche believed that this nihilist abandoning of ethics to instead focus on human nature as a power-driven thing would free people from being bound to a sense of absolute morality that oppresses people arbitrarily. But in reality, his denial of any grounded base for ethics normally results in either people who already have power asserting that they have a right to oppress others, because they are the Übermensch, a person who threw off their slave morality by imposing their will on others, while common people who don't have much power in society turn instead to dismissiveness and hedonistic focus on whatever the next personally or immediately pleasurable thing that comes up is. But again, NieR denies Nietzsche's depiction of people's relationship to power. No person can actually wield power. Power wields people. The lesson in this mechanic and in this part of NieR's themes is that power is control, but people can never actually control power. Power to any degree controls us. It dictates what we do. It dictates our options and our thoughts. Whether you're the king of a nation or just a guy in a village, our power controls us. So power is control, and that control is exercised over all people. But now NieR raises another question with that theme, and that's the question of what are people? For what NieR says about that, come back for part 3. Thank you for watching, everyone, and as always, stay true.